Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is Super Bowl champion coach, one of the masters of the NFL and the NFL Network, Brian Billick. Coach, welcome back to BYU Sports Nation.
Yes, sir. Good to be with you.
BYU Boise State tonight. What do you expect in this regional matchup between two generally quality programs, but currently both dealing with offensive struggles?
Yeah, both are desperate for a win. And you're right, it is has developed into a rivalry. Of course, before Boise was still a building program, but now has gotten to the point, obviously, nationally, where it can rival a team like BYU in terms of recruiting and all those things that have you compete with an organization. And both are struggling a little bit right now. So this would be a big win, notwithstanding what their records are, just because of the matchup, the histories, the national prominence, so to speak, these two organizations have had, or these two teams have had in the past. You're right. This would right a lot of wrongs for both clubs.
BYU's lost 4 games in a row. This is a long losing streak for BYU. I imagine after game 1, it was like the message from the coaching staff, Klein, all right, we got to get up for this one. Let's go. When you're on the 5th game of this kind of thing, and I don't know if you've had a 4-game losing streak at any point, Brian, but as a coach, how do you get the guys up for that game when the message has been kind of similar the previous couple of games?
Well, and they know. You kind of hold that mirror up, and what do you want to do? A lot of people forget we had a 4-game losing streak in our Super Bowl run, or we've lost 3 out of 4. Offense was not playing well. Defense was obviously dominant, but offense we had struggled. Didn't score a touchdown, an offensive touchdown, the month of October. So, yeah, there's lots of potential for a team to turn on itself at that point, and could have. And I always point to that as being the reason that team, and the fact that they hung together, we then went on an 11-game winning streak and ending up in the Super Bowl. That challenge that we had to face collectively was the reason we were able to go on and be champions. And it does test you. It tests your team. It tests all the personalities, everything about it. So, you can look at it from that standpoint. Yeah, we can't turn it around. You look in the NFL, a team like the New York Giants and the Los Angeles Chargers are playing this weekend, both 0-4, both desperate for a win, and the one team's going to get it and actually feel like, okay, we've made that turn, and the other is going to be in absolute panic mode.
Follow him at Coach Billick on Twitter. Also check out his Facebook page for all sorts of football insight. Coach, maybe Trent Dilfer just needs to call Tanner Mangum, and they need to have a quarterback conversation about how he turned things around for your team and to get BYU going in the right direction.
Yeah, and you got to play within your team. That was the beauty of what Trent did in our Super Bowl year. He recognized how good we were defensively, that we could run the ball. And Trent was at a point in his career where he needed to generate some numbers, selfishly, but he put that on the back burner and was one that said, okay, I'll play within myself. I'm not going to take too many chances. I'm not going to turn the ball over. We can play good defense. We can run the ball, and we can get a win. And there were any number of situations. I remember there was a game we were playing. It was against San Diego Chargers that if we won, we were in the playoffs. So it was a big game, and we had pretty good control of the game. And we had gotten down inside to the red zone, and it was the 3rd and whatever, and it was a timeout. And Trent came over, and my offensive inclination. Okay, well, if you want to do, we'll take this shot here and that shot there. And Trent looked at me and says, "Coach, why? We kick a field goal here, game's over, we win, we go to the playoffs." And he was absolutely right. And to put his ego on the back burner, his own individual agenda, that tells you a lot about Trent Dilfer.
Spencer, you joke, but Trent Dilfer is involved in Elite 11 and
Yes.
knows Tanner Mangum. How much better is starting a quarterback that's less than 100% versus maybe a 4th-string freshman? Because that's where BYU's at tonight. The hope is that Tanner Mangum is medically passed and is good to go with that ankle. The backup could be a 4th-string freshman. I think it's Tanner Mangum or bust at this point a little bit, right?
Well, if you're the way you just framed it, I would say I'd put the football secretary in at quarterback. I'd put a 4th-string freshman in. I'm sure it's not quite that dire, but anytime it comes to an injured player, you go through a sequence. It begins with the doctors, because no player or coach has those 2 initials, DR, in front of his name. The doctors have to tell you, okay, where is this guy? Could he do further damage? What's the long-term prognosis? Once the doctors say, yes, he can go, and the player's going to say, yeah, I can go. Well, then the coach, that's where you've got to look at it and say, okay, can he do those things to one, stay safe, two, do enough for us to win, or do I have to save him from himself and go with the other guy because he's going to put this team or himself at risk?
What kind of impact are we talking about for the offense when BYU has to play, to this point, 3 different quarterbacks and potentially a fourth tonight? How does that impact an offense?
Huge. Your continuity in terms of the rhythm of what you do, the play calling, how the players react to it. The players looking in the eye of this guy going, is he okay? Can we trust this guy? Can this guy get us where we need to go? It's a lot. Changing at the quarterback position is the most dramatic thing a team goes through. For any number, whether it's injury, whether it's due to play or lack of play, that's the most traumatic thing a team has to deal with. And the players around that change have to step up. And I know that the youth that the BYU offense is dealing with right now, that has a lot to do with it as well. That, where is that anchor? I mean, when we changed from a Tony Banks to a Trent Dilfer in our Super Bowl year, we had a guy like Shannon Sharp and Jonathan Ogden that the rest of the players could lean on going, okay, if they say we're okay, we're okay. And they would take their lead. And that's what probably BYU needs more than anything right now.
BYU was -6 in turnover margin last week, which is wild. What do you say to a team after a game like that? And have you been in a game where your team was -6?
Yeah, you pull out all that coaching experience and that great pearl of wisdom and say, guys, we can't do that.
That's why they pay you the big bucks.
Yeah, turnovers are still the #1 determinant for success, and just the way it affects the entire team, particularly on a team that is struggling a little bit offensively. Again, that was what was the formula for us to win a Super Bowl? Play great defense. We were a top 3 rushing team, and we led the league in turnover differential. So we weren't going to give you that field position. We weren't going to give you that opportunity to get onto a short field. As conservative as that may sound, that was the formula for us.
We've discussed a lot of things that BYU needs to change, adjust, work on, focus on. What is the #1 priority for BYU football right now in terms of changing things around this season?
I don't know if you can point to a specific thing as much as you got to trust one another. And it's going to challenge you. And it may not. It may not turn around in the win column, but you're going to – it's what I talked about to the BYU team this summer when I was up there, was you got to look around, that band of brothers. It's very easy. You always hear that camaraderie and winning teams, and we're a band of brothers. It's tougher. It's going to test you. And it goes beyond just the outcome of the season. It's, okay, what kind of person am I? What kind of team are we going to be? The lessons you're going to learn by coming out of that, like we did, coming out of that losing streak in 2000 to go on to win the Super Bowl. As I said, had we not had to face that as a team together, I'm not sure we would have won a Super Bowl, because when we did get tested the rest of the way, no matter how dire it was, we knew we could handle it because we had stood at the abyss, and we knew it'd been there before. No big deal. We knew we could trust one another. And whether it shows up this season or in the next season, that's what this rest of this season is going to be about for this team.
Let's finish with this. Are the Chiefs the best team in the NFL? Daniel Sorensen's Chiefs right now. What do you think?
Yeah, when you're 4-0 and the only undefeated team, you can lay claim to that. Now, a lot will change at the quarter mark, from the quarter mark to the halfway mark to the three-quarter mark. They're the only team right now, and at some point we'll see their whatever chink in their armor. Right now, they're hitting on all cylinders, and right now they're the only team that really hasn't blinked. Everybody else, and there are teams that are now coming back and playing well, some that aren't playing as well. You look at the New England Patriots, pretty good game against Tampa, but you can still see where they're a little vulnerable. Right now, we haven't seen the vulnerabilities of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think we will. But everybody else, you kind of know what that is. It's kind of like a game. By the time you get to the second quarter of a game, you kind of know what's going on. Okay, you've seen the formations and the personnel groupings the offense are going to use. You've seen pretty much kind of the blitz packages and the coverage packages the defense is going to use. So now it's okay. We got the information we need. We're done shadow boxing. Now we're going to go forward. And that's where the league is right now. We kind of know what everybody is, notwithstanding the records. And now we're going to find out whether they can turn it around in the case of like a team like the New York Giants, or with a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, whether they can sustain it.
Coach, it's always great to talk to you. We appreciate your time and a very busy schedule, and love to follow on Twitter. In fact, you pointed out something that Tom Brady did last night that I was thinking the same thing, and then you tweeted out he was in the pocket, had a great pocket, and just made a horrible throw. And I was with you. I couldn't remember the last time I had seen Tom Brady just miss a throw.
Yeah, you got to go back in a lot of film to find that, but I may do just that.
Very good. Check out NFL Playbook Wednesdays on the NFL Network at 6 Eastern with Brian Billick and his crew. Coach, thanks so much.
All right, guys.
Brian Billick on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline.